Hey, Dave Nemo, welcome back to your show.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And we are so glad to welcome our friend Ben Wilkens. He is the Cybersecurity Principal Engineer for NMFTA, the National Motor Freight Traffic Association. And Ben is going to be talking about several controls in the cybersecurity guidebook that you can get absolutely free. We've talked about that. We'll tell you how you can do that too. And if you're a carrier, no matter how big, if you're an owner-operator with maybe one truck, and that's it, you need to have your cargo crime risk reduced. And before we talk about all of that stuff, though, I asked Ben, hey, are you a hamburger fan? And Ben, you responded by saying...
I am a massive hamburger fan, Dave. You can't go wrong with a hamburger.
Gotcha. All right. Now, and I've asked this before, what is your number one hamburger chain on the Ben Wilkens top 10?
I think if I'm going to go with a chain, I would have to say Five Guys.
Five Guys.
They make a pretty good smash burger.
Not bad at all. Five Guys is number 2. Now, what do you think's number 1 on this list?
We're talking number 1 by volume.
Just number 1. That's all it says. Don't ask for details. There ain't none.
It's probably going to be one of the classics. It's got to be like a Burger King, right?
Oh, look at you, man. No, that's number 4. It's nice talking to you, Ben.
Number 4.
There's
okay.
no consolation prize either.
Right.
No, the winner is the Big Kahuna, Ben. Ben, the winner is the Big Kahuna themselves. The Golden Arches Uberales are your monumental winner. Our friends from McDonald's, by the way. Ray Kroc, indoors, even though he's a thief, stealing people's content.
You wouldn't have been a kid to see your first Five Guys, but you would have been a kid, Ben, to see or go to your first McDonald's. Do you remember? I remember mine. Do you remember your first McDonald's visit?
I do. It would have been with my grandparents when I was, I must have been 7, maybe.
Okay.
6?
Yeah, that's good. No, that's good.
Pretty young.
Yeah.
I can actually date myself, guys. I remember when their soft serve ice cream actually added the flavors. Remember when they had the syrup? Not the syrup, but like the strawberry and the chocolate they would put on top of it? Because it used to just be soft serve. I remember when they added it. I remember when they actually brought it in. It was a big deal.
My first experience with McDonald's was in Mississippi, right outside, right on the same lot as the drive-in theater. And I remember one night we drove into the drive-in theater, and there's something there we had never seen before in our lives, and it looked like it just landed from someplace other than this world. Those golden, it was a walk-up window. You could get a hamburger for the hamburger was
15 cents.
Yes, the fries were 12. And then you had a choice of a vanilla or chocolate shake. There was no soft drinks at that time, at that place.
No, period. There were no soft drinks.
Yeah,
period. Because he was a maniac about the franchising. If you variated from it, he'd pull the franchise on you. That was his kind of golden rule with the golden arches. Absolutely true.
I just realized where my penny pinching career started, Ben, because I was about 7 years old too, and I remember exactly how much everything cost. Do you remember what the hamburger was when you went to your first one with your grandparents?
I don't. I was just trying to think of that because you say in the 15-cent hamburger. I know they were more than that, but I know you could still the dollar menu was still. There was plenty of stuff for 99 cents back then.
Ah, okay.
But I don't remember the exact price.
No, good answer. No, because that was a thing, a big thing at the time. Yeah. So anyway, what about your own backyard? Are you a griller?
I am, but I got to say, my wife makes a much meaner smash burger than I do. She's got some way of doing it that I defer every time that it comes to burgers. It's I'm going to let her make them and I'll eat them.
Okay, smart man indeed. That's why you're here. Okay, and you're going to be doing a public service right now if you can answer this question, and you may not be able to, because one of the guys out on the road called in earlier and wanted to know what is the difference between a hamburger and a smash burger. Is there a difference?
So I'm going to give you my unscientific personal opinion here. The difference between a hamburger and a smash burger: the hamburger, you put it in the grill or you put it in a pan and you cook it, right? You flip it over once or twice. Smash burger, you really do. You take the burger and you smash it completely flat. You press it so it's thin, and so they work better to be layered. If you put a couple of burgers, some cheese, some bacon in between them, that kind of thing. Where the hamburger is usually thicker.
So you could make sort of almost a club kind of sandwich with the smash burger. You could have a multiple layer smash burger.
Can I join that club?
Absolutely.
Is it possible to be a member of that club? That's as good of a definition. Dave Nemo and Jimmy Mac here on the Dave Nemo Show accept Ben's definition of the smash burger, and we challenge you to reply at 615-292-6366. What we got going on today, Dave, with Ben?
I guess I should turn my microphone on. Ben is going to walk through some more of the controls in the Cybersecurity Guidebook. And we're going to talk about what controls are in the first place and then why we need to control those controls, I think. Take it from there, Ben, because I have no clue what I'm talking about, dude.
No, we're right on track. I think we made it through the first two tiers in previous sessions. So when we're talking about controls from the NMFTA Cybersecurity Midsize and Small Fleet Guidebook series, and we've been focusing on the owner-op and small fleet guidance specifically, which is kind of the first step into a major set of tiered controls where we have our prerequisites and our initial controls, and then we start getting into intermediate controls. And each control is really designed to address a specific risk, right? So we think about a risk and we think about controlling that risk. And so that's what when we say cybersecurity controls, we're talking about specific steps to address specific risks or a specific class of risk. And so the first two tiers really speak to kind of your central cybersecurity best practices, where we're doing things like backing up our important files. We're using strong, unique passwords, multi-factor authentication, updates. We're having an incident response plan. We're thinking about endpoint detection and response on our laptops, on our phones, on our computers. Some cybersecurity awareness training for our users across the organization, regardless of how big or how small that organization is. It's important to keep everyone educated about the risks, and really tailoring each person's access to the minimal access to systems and resources they need to complete their job. So you don't want to make everybody an admin to everything. You want to kind of limit what they can access. And then once we've got those in place, we get into what we term the intermediate controls, or tier 3. And this is really where we go from cybersecurity core best practices into a crossover where we're talking a lot about business processes and the relationship between cybersecurity and the business. And one of the first things that we need to do at this tier, or at this maturity level in our cybersecurity journey, is to inventory and classify all of our business data. And what we mean by that is each piece of data has a certain amount of value and a certain amount of risk if it's exposed or lost. And so we want to look at what we store for data across our organization, and we want to start classifying that. And some people take the course of internal only, public data, restricted internal. There can be lots of different terms you can put on this, but you really want to get a handle on what you have for data, what its impact is if it's lost or exposed, and then what its value is to the organization. How important is that? And you start thinking about things like the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, which is, what is that information or what is that data that you absolutely need access to in order for your business to keep functioning? If that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. We're going to take a quick break here because we're going to get the rest of that information as well from Ben. When we come back on the other side of this, we're going to be talking about, well, basically it comes down to what, when we have to evacuate, do we want to take with us? It's almost like hurricane planning. We'll be right back on the other side of these messages. Dave Nemo, of course, on the Dave Nemo Show. And as always, we're pleased to have our friend Ben Wilkens. We'll be right back after these messages. Want to make your diesel engine cleaner and more efficient? Pittsburgh Power's Max Mileage Fuel Catalyst can reduce your soot output by 60% and increase your thermal efficiency. Max Mileage keeps your engine and emission systems functioning at its best. Less soot means a longer engine and emission component life, drastically fewer regens, and better performance. Take the first step towards a cleaner, more efficient ride. Visit PittsburghPower.com and order your Max Mileage Fuel Catalyst today. Drive cleaner, drive smarter.
Okay, you've heard the horror stories of how folks have lost their life savings when the market tanks. Is there a way to invest and make money without risk? Believe it or not, yes. Since 1995, Americans who cannot afford to lose their investments have used fixed index annuities. You get guaranteed income and protection from market downturns. It's a win-win for you and your future. To learn more, dial pound 250. Use the keyword Truckers Wealth to get in touch with them today.
I don't even know how to respond to that song. It is currently 8:18 in the morning here on the Dave Nemo Show, and that means we should pivot for a moment to talk about NeverRollAlone.com. If you're looking for a nationwide network of fuel-saving truck stop locations, generous lines of credit, and you're an over-the-road trucking company who's looking for quality customer service, look no further. They've been doing it since 1978. I'm talking about the multi-service fuel card has been helping fleets manage fuel spending for over 3 decades. Hey guys, let's get back to the Dave Nemo Show after you go to NeverRollAlone.com. Hey Dave, welcome back to your show.
Thank you very much. Ben Wilkens is with us from NMFTA. And Ben, I just sent the link to the NMFTA Core Cybersecurity Controls Checklist to Tara, and she will post that up in the stories at facebook.com/Dave Nemo Show, because I got to tell you, this is the third of the guides. We've talked about the other two, and they are incredibly important. This is beautiful, man. It's a 4-page guide. There are 9 checklists on here, ranging for anywhere from 2 to 7 boxes. They cover all the bases. You talked about that just now. Is there a pecking order? In other words, okay, we got to start someplace, and we can't do everything all at once, all at the same time. So how much of a process is this? So say I own a small company. I might have 15 people working for me. How much time am I going to spend checking off this list? Now, I'm not saying, if it's too much time, I ain't going to do it. No, this is exceedingly important. I don't think we can emphasize the importance of this at all, or overemphasize.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's one of those things where you got to do it. But as far as the time investment for the core controls, and I love the fact that you're putting that out there for everybody. I appreciate you doing that. The process for getting started with this, some of these are do it once and it's done kind of situations, and some of this is an ongoing time commitment. It's not a massive time commitment, but it's just something that you'll want to regularly do. And what I mean by that is something like securing all your business accounts and personal accounts with strong, unique passwords. You go in and you set those once, but then you do want to make sure that periodically you'll go back and you'll reset those. Or if you have run the risk of maybe one gets compromised or there's a breach at a company you do business with, you'll want to go in and reset those. So it depends on how many accounts you have, but setting a weak password really doesn't take any less time than setting a strong password. It's just about the decision you make about the process you want
Do
to use.
you believe in the
password.
password saving programs where you can click the button and then they have your password? Is it, are there some pitfalls there? I never do it.
So there's some good ones and there's some not so good options out there. And the one I always shy away from is saving them in your browser. So if you're using, say, Google Chrome and you enter a password on a website, it will ask you, do you want to save this in your browser? And I always encourage people not to use that, because if there's malware out there that can actually harvest those credentials from in your browser. But there are standalone applications. There's a number of them out there that are, there's 1Password, there's KeePass, there's LastPass is one of them. There's a whole bunch of different applications out there that are reputable and security-oriented organizations that store all of your passwords in a secure manner. They're not in your browser. You have one master password. Typically, they have multi-factor authentication to get into the app. And then it does make it easier to set and store complex passwords. I personally use an app like that to store all of my passwords.
That's interesting, because I just use the word I just use the word password on everything. I don't. Is that a bad idea?
Well, that makes it easy to remember. I'm not sure how secure that is. You'd be
But it
surprised how
misspells
common
it.
that is.
Right. Let me ask you a question.
Make sure you put a 1 on the end.
I'll tell you something real fast, just a quick little thing.
Ampersand on the end always kind of seals the deal. I wanted to ask you this in regards to the prioritization of this kind of stuff. This is where actually, how you work in the company. You said that certain people, everybody doesn't need to have administrative access and all that kind of stuff. Depending upon the size of your company, though, it is really good to have a conversation if your company's a little bit larger with all the departments and kind of try to figure out what that list is, right? I mean, because, one person is deciding this stuff's important, and then you walk out with half the stuff you need, or only half the stuff truly protected. It really is important to this is the kind of group building stuff that actually can really help a company come together and also figure out its own mission as well, is right.
Absolutely. And one of the things that really helps this process is if you start with role descriptions or role charters for each different function in the organization, and you first focus on what are the actual roles and responsibilities for that individual, and then you look at what that set of responsibilities requires for access. Because if you just try and go through and say, okay, well, Bob over here needs this level of access and Susie over here needs that level of access, it's not as consistent as if you take the job description, you look at the specific responsibilities, what systems, what pieces of data those responsibilities require, and then you will grant that access based on the job description from the get-go. And it gives you a bit more consistency as you go across the organization.
Like I said, the thing I really dig about that, Ben, is the fact that it's a great example of how simply doing diligence in regards to your cybersecurity can actually help clarify what your core priorities are as a company. And I just think that people often need to be reminded of the stuff that it's not just an exercise to protect your data, but it really kind of helps you figure out who you are and where you want to be and what you want to do next to a large degree. And I realize that you don't do this kind of stuff to do, team building, but it does really kind of help people figure out what people do and what's important in regards to what services you actually provide and how you actually structure your organization as well, correct?
Very much so. Yeah, and I think it's a good way to change the assumption around cybersecurity. A lot of people hear cybersecurity and they think, oh, that's that awful training I got to do every year, or those are the people that tell me no all the time, or it's friction. It adds friction to the organization. But when you include the cybersecurity component in these business conversations and in strategy as you plan out how to grow your business or how to further, your operation in one way or another, you really start to change that narrative around cybersecurity, and it becomes a business enablement function. It's a way to secure and enable business growth. So I couldn't agree more with how you put that.
Ben, one of the things on the checklist is one of the checklists with 3 points is secure Wi-Fi connections. Avoid using public Wi-Fi networks at truck stops or rest areas unless you are connected through a virtual private network, the VPN. I have a VPN system for my home computers, and we have one. We're talking on a VPN right now, as a matter of fact. But I have it on my phone, and I'm seeing more and more of something that I've never seen before. You'll have to turn your VPN off before you can do this on our site. Is that becoming a trend? Have you seen that? I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah, so the tricky thing with VPNs, and like most technology, there's a legitimate use and an illegitimate use. And a lot of times a VPN can be used not just to secure your traffic for those of us just trying to do good security, but it's also a way to mask your origin location. So I can get into a VPN and I can set my location to appear as though I'm coming in from Norway or from Japan or anywhere I pick, right? I can just set the country and it will route my traffic as though it's coming through that country. And so a lot of times if there's things that are limited by licensing restrictions, if you think streaming content, you're streaming video, those are often different licenses for different geographical regions. And so a VPN makes it very difficult for the content provider to ensure they're staying within the guidelines of their licensing if you're using a VPN.
You're making me ask the question, are VPNs a favorite tool then of cyber criminals?
They are certainly one of the ways which is used to obfuscate or hide your origin location. It makes it much harder to trace back where the traffic is coming from. Absolutely.
Can you make
I swear by him, Dave. Dave, I swear
not?
by him. I just want to make sure everybody knows.
Oh,
this.
Me too.
I mean, as a criminal organization, as a certified criminal organization, I swear by them. I just want to point this out. Godfather too.
If you think about it, like criminals love to put locks on their facilities, and so do we, right? So it's one of those things where it's a tool, it's a security tool that has good uses and can also be used by the bad actors. But it is an important security tool for us on this side as well.
Ben, real quick to close out, you said, well, we can talk about this stuff or we can talk about anything going on, like maybe some big cybercrime that just happened. I thought about you when I read this story on the air. I think it was up in Pennsylvania. It doesn't matter where it was. It was old-fashioned pre-cybercrime theft where you had a box truck and a car get beside and in front of a tractor trailer hauling a lot of Apple products, Apple phones and stuff. And they slowed him down, and then the car without headlights comes up behind him. The guy's on the hood. He opens up the back door and starts throwing stuff out. Absolutely old school highway crime, right? Problem is, and here's where your world comes in, it's all on camera because there was a police car just happened to be sitting on the side of the road and got the whole thing on dash cam. And then when they got to where they were going, the truck stop camera got the rest of it. So there it is, right?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, it's even with all the high tech stuff in the world, you do still see this kind of, we think of the Fast and the Furious kind of stuff when we see these episodes, but it really does happen sometimes. Still the old school way.
I still love the fact that it was Apple's Day, which is the most old school thing you could ever possibly haul in a truck.
Yeah, I know,
perfect,
right?
perfect. Ben Wilkens is the best, dude. Ben Wilkens is the best.
And
agree with me, Dave.
He is the best, yeah. And we'll see you on the continent that we are just about to land on. Ben Wilkens, everybody. NMFTA.